Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that the thought of betrayal seemed impossible? Can 2 nights of temptation undo years of loyalty and love? What would you do if your heart and your body started speaking different languages? And how much damage can a weekend in paradise do? They say what happens on vacation stays there. But does it really? Or does it come back with you, festering in silence, haunting your every glance? This is the story of 2 couples, for lives, and one summer evening that changed everything. If real-life stories get you breathless, this channel is for you. Kindly subscribe to Betrayal and Infidelity Exposed as we share stories that inform and educate you. Jessica and Marcus had been married for 6 years. They lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and decided on a summer getaway to Savannah to rekindle the flame that had started to flicker. Jessica was a corporate events planner, organized, elegant, and emotionally exhausted. Marcus worked in commercial real estate, a man of routine and late-night emails, often too drained to notice the quiet between them. Naomi and Eric were different. Younger, livelier. They were the kind of couple that shared playlists, danced in grocery store aisles, and posted inside jokes on social media. Married just 2 years, they still had that honeymoon glow, but even they had their cracks. Cracks hidden beneath shared smiles and filtered photos. The 2 couples checked into the Forsyth Grand Hotel, a boutique treasure nestled along the historic riverfront. Spanish moss swayed in the breeze, and the streets echoed with horse carriages and jazz spilling from open windows. It was the perfect backdrop for a fresh start, or so they believed. On the second morning, during breakfast on the rooftop, everything shifted. Jessica noticed them first. Camille and Darren, seated across the terrace, sipping espresso and laughing like old lovers in a black and white film. Camille was magnetic, curly auburn hair, a silk scarf draped around her shoulders, her laugh a melody. Darren was tall, sharply dressed, and carried a kind of stillness that made you lean in when he spoke. Their eyes met, Jessica's and Darren's, and something passed between them. Something unspoken, something dangerous. Introductions followed. It turned out Camille and Darren were from Atlanta, on a spontaneous weekend escape. The 6 of them chatted over brunch, then agreed to meet again that evening for drinks. That evening turned into dinner. Dinner became laughter. Laughter became connection. As the night wore on, Camille flirted openly with Marcus, placing a hand on his knee during a joke. Jessica watched without speaking, sipping her wine. Eric and Naomi were absorbed in conversation, but Eric's gaze flickered occasionally toward Camille too, noticing more than he let on. Later, back at the hotel bar, Jessica sat alone, stirring the last of her bourbon when Darren approached. Their conversation was easy, too easy. They talked about books, regrets, and the numbness that came with familiarity. He made her feel visible, important, desired. Meanwhile, Camille had convinced Marcus to take a walk along the river. The evening breeze brushed her dress against him. She spoke of passion, freedom, and things she said she missed in her own marriage. By the time the moon was high, the lines had blurred. Jessica didn't return to her room until after 4 a.m. She told herself nothing happened, but even lies echo in silence. The following day was slow and heavy. Naomi sensed the tension immediately. Jessica distant, Marcus evasive. Camille and Darren seemed charged, electric. Naomi noticed a text light up Marcus' phone during brunch. She caught the name, Camille. Her stomach twisted. Later, on a group sunset cruise, the pretense crumbled further. Camille leaned into Marcus. Jessica stood beside Darren at the railing, laughing too loudly. Naomi said little. Her arm looped through Eric's, but her mind was racing. That night, Naomi confronted Jessica in their room. "You're not acting like yourself," Naomi said. "Tell me the truth." Jessica hesitated, her mouth opening then closing. I don't know what I'm doing anymore." In the hallway, Eric pulled Marcus aside. "Whatever this is, end it, before you lose more than you bargained for." But the warnings came too late. The emotional affair had turned physical. Marcus had spent the night with Camille, Jessica with Darren. Camille and Darren left early the next morning. No goodbyes, Just an empty breakfast table and a silence too loud to ignore. As they prepared to leave, Naomi cornered Marcus near the elevators. "I know," she said, her voice sharp but steady. "And you should be ashamed." Jessica, unseen around the corner, froze. Her heart sank. The truth was out. The car ride home was wordless. For people, bound by secrets, staring out the windows at passing trees and faded trust. Back in Charlotte, the real unraveling began. Jessica barely spoke for days. She avoided Marcus, slept in the guest room, and stared blankly at the walls when Naomi called. Guilt didn't feel like enough of a word. It was a weight, an ache that crept into her bones. Marcus, too, was a shell of himself. He tried to apologize, tried to reason, but words sounded hollow. The affair had exposed more than infidelity. It had cracked open a marriage that had been struggling long before Savannah. Naomi, furious and heartbroken, withdrew. She distanced herself from both Jessica and Marcus. Eric stood silently beside her, helping where he could, but even he was haunted by the images that filled his mind. Of Marcus, of Jessica, of how close they'd all once been. 3 weeks later, Jessica and Naomi met at a coffee shop. "I miss you," Jessica said, eyes brimming. Naomi shook her head. "You didn't just cheat on Marcus. You cheated on our friendship." "I know. I was lost." "No. You chose to get lost." They parted without hugs. The silence between them thicker than ever. Marcus moved into a short-term apartment. Counseling was attempted but failed. Trust had rotted too deeply. Eric and Naomi stayed together, but the easy joy they once had dimmed. They took a break from double dates, from social media, from the world. In private, Naomi cried more than she ever let Eric see. 2 months later, Jessica filed for divorce. Camille and Darren were never heard from again. Like ghosts, they disappeared, leaving behind a wound only time could try to heal. In the quiet that followed, each of them learned something. Jessica learned that feeling invisible doesn't justify betrayal. Marcus learned that withholding emotion is its own kind of damage. Naomi learned that trust, once broken, never returns the same. And Eric? He learned that even the strongest-looking bonds can hide dangerous cracks. Some secrets never come home. Others ride quietly in the back seat, waiting to explode. What makes someone cheat? Is it dissatisfaction, curiosity, or just a moment of weakness? And when the damage is done, who gets to decide what love looks like afterward? Now it's your turn. What would you have done if you were Jessica, Marcus, Naomi, or Eric? Would you confess? Forgive? Walk away? Share your thoughts. Because stories like this don't just happen in Savannah.